Hey everybody, Cheryl here. I wanted to chat a little bit about mixing paper collections. So I don't know what side of the fence you guys are on. I'd like to hear in the comments actually. I'd love to know. I am definitely a mixed collections, mix manufacturers kind of person. Some of my scrappy besties are not. And so sometimes it's kind of funny. I know some people really love mixing different manufacturers, some people don't. That's why some people like kits, because the kits are all made for you and it's all one collection and it's ready to go and everything's sort of pre-matched. And again, opposite. I'm not going to keep going back and forth to say some people like this, some people don't. I think you get what I mean. But what I wanted to chat about a little bit is how I would take a collection like the Studio Tekturek Strawberry Shake. And I'm using this one because, because I'm on the design team for Studio Tekturek, and because this collection is one of their first ones back after a bit of a break. So there was Strawberry Shake and then Very Much Mary. And so I thought, if you've been looking at either of these collections, because they match well together, the two Studio Tekturek ones, if you've been looking at one of these and wondering how to incorporate it into items you already have in your stash, I thought this might be helpful. So I went through my stash of pattern paper and just flipped through and pulled out all of these papers that you see, all of this goodness surrounding me here. So I thought I would just flip through them, talk about why I think they match, and then talk about some of the ways that I usually would work with different patterns from different collections together. So there's I made myself a note over here. There's a few things that I try to keep in mind if I'm matching different manufacturers and different collections. The first would be the background color. Let me see which one might be the best example. Let's go with this green and white polka dot. So when I'm talking about the background color, like if you look at this green and white dot, the white here is a really bright, kind of crisp white. So if I were to try and match this Studio Tekturek collection with a paper collection that has more of an off-white, a distressed white, or more of a cream-based paper, it wouldn't work in quite the same way. You absolutely can do it if that's a look you like. It just takes a little bit more, takes a little bit more planning, has to be a little bit more intentional. If you're just matching based on color and you just want everything to look a little bit more cohesive, you want the matching to be a little bit easier, just pay attention to that background color. And you can look for that in, like I said, a pattern like this polka dot. You would notice it in things like the cutter parts where the journaling lines are. It's that kind of white, the white of the stripes. So those are the places where you can look at that. Other things that I was looking for would be sort of the vibe of the collection, whether it's bright and kind of cartoony, hand-drawn, whether a collection is sort of distressed or vintage, whether a collection is really clean and simple. You can keep those things in mind when you're matching. If I had gone with, say, a collection from, like I have some Simple Stories papers in here that I think will work well with Strawberry Shake. But if I had gone with, say, one of the Simple Stories vintage collections, like Vintage Traveler or Vintage, I'm totally spacing on some of the newer ones, those, because the vibe is different, sort of the overall feeling of the collection is different, those wouldn't work in quite as well. Because this one is so bright and colorful, a vintage collection where the overall color scheme is a bit more muted, they don't mesh quite as well. In my mind, again, all I can give you is my opinion on how this works for me. You are absolutely free to disagree. I would be more than happy to hear why you disagree. All good. And I think, again, the other thing to keep in mind would be the overall color scheme. Like, are there certain colors that are really dominant in this collection? You can see there's some red and orange, blue, green, yellow, pink. So those are the colors I had in mind from this collection as I was going through my paper stash looking for, red, yellow, blue, orange, yellow. And there's some pink ones in here too. So if you have those main colors in mind when you're flipping through your paper stash, you can pull out lots of other things and see how they work in here. And then you'd be also thinking whether the color scheme of this collection is really vibrant, or again, if it's a little bit more muted. Kind of like same idea as I was saying with the the sort of theme, whether it's vintage or distressed, clean and simple, that kind of thing. And you can also look for certain motifs and certain repeating elements that might be in a collection. Like this one, for example, with all the different leaves and some of the leaves and the strawberries here. So some of the papers I've pulled out might have like some of the birds here. I have some ones with flowers, different elements and that kind of thing. That could easily work in with this kind of motif. So I hope those ideas make sense. So let's have a look at some of the paper. And I'm going to think about how best to do this. Let's move these guys aside. And I'll leave these guys here in the middle. And we'll start going through some of the collections that I pulled out. So these 3 papers I pulled out from, these are just a paper pad from Michael's that was travel themed. And so this one, I mean, a text pattern or text print, you can sort of look like it. You can sort of consider it a neutral pattern if the colors work. In this case, because this has a lot of blue, white, yellow, pink, green, and all of these papers have blue, white, yellow, pink, green, I would consider this a fairly neutral pattern that I could use a lot of these on top of. I would use those together. I would use those together. This blue sky one obviously is quite easy. I would use those together. I would use those together. This is just another blue sky, so I mean, that one's kind of a cheat because really this is pretty neutral. And then the last one I pulled from that collection is just a pink background with little green hot air balloons. So that one I would probably use with some of the simpler patterns from here. But again, there's no reason why you couldn't make it work. Here we have some papers from P13 Sunshine Collection. I love these cameras. So this might already be me going against my own rules. They're not rules, they're just suggestions, because these are a little more vintage-ish. But they're still colorful, they're still vibrant. So this is one of those places where I think it could work. This particular collection, the Sunshine Collection, actually has a yellow stripe in the collection, so those two would work together. Again, the sky paper is an easy one. Yeah, maybe not those ones, but the green dots would be an easy one. The red stripe. So there's certainly some options there. The multicolored stripe. These are a few Paige Evans papers here. So ones like the stripe, the clouds, and the raindrops. Those again are pretty simple patterns on a white background. So you can sort of add almost anything to those ones. Hopefully that makes sense. Now this guy, the ticket paper, the colors are just too good for it not to work. The colors are so vibrant, and you could take any of the cutter parts on here, some of these, like these tickets and these cutter parts I think would just work really well together. That would be a lot of fun. And the strawberry paper with some of these yellow tickets, some of the green tickets, just really cute. Some of the Paige Evans hearts. And again, it's just the color scheme with these because the colors are so vibrant and fun that I thought that they would be really interesting together. And you probably, I mean, you'd want to add in a neutral to, excuse me, I have the hiccups. It's terrible timing. You'd want to add in a neutral to help break things up a little bit, depending on what works for you. This is a good blue from Wild Whisper, the City Lights collection. So this one's a bit darker than a lot of the other colors that I've been pulling out so far. But the lighter blue in here kind of works. So this Dear Diary cut apart would look good on here. Some of the Some of the other colors and different patterns would work well on the blue. A white and black is definitely an easy one. This is the No Place Like Home collection from Wild Whisper. So a white and black is an easy way to go. I do not consider that cheating at all. Jelly bean soup. I have a couple of definitely older ones here. This is Mushroom from Mushroom Medley. This is also from Mushroom Medley. And Shades of Color soup. These I just chose based on, again, color scheme. This one, the white, is a bit tricky. Do you see how this is more of an off-white base? So let's, just for comparison's sake, we'll go back to one of the cut aparts. And if you put them side by side, you can see the difference in these two. So super bright white and cream off-white. So this one would be a bit tricky. What I would do if I were using this one is I probably would not use the cut aparts so that it would be less obvious, and I would use something like the stripe where there's a little less of the white. Hopefully that makes sense. And then these weather ones are really cute because this is a summer collection and it's talking about summer vibes and that sort of thing. And now we have some Cocoa Vanilla. I had such a neat pile of paper when we started. That one isn't supposed to be here, I don't think. So this rainbow motif is just adorable, and I think it would work in with a lot of these with, you know, the cut aparts, the summer vibes, day is a day, any of these journaling cards. You could cut these rainbows out and sort of tuck them onto any of these cards. We have some more green. That would work with any of these. A blue stripe. And again, if you look at these close up, there's a much more similar tone in the white shades right here. So this is a brighter white. These are also Cocoa Vanilla, so another black and white. And a piece of paper like this, any sort of grid paper, any kind of notebook, ledger paper, it doesn't matter what collection it's from. It doesn't matter who made it, a notebook or a ledger or a wood grain or a grid. If the color works, those are neutral. Put them in anywhere. Don't even worry about it. And yeah, just some more colors right here. Oh yeah, sorry. Thought I forgot which side I chose on this one. So some more blue, some more stripes, some more dots. This peach colored one I pulled out because it worked really well with, come up here. Nope, not that one. I'm lying to you. Am I lying to you? Why would I do that to you? It may have been with these hearts, or it may be that I have buried all of my papers in a mixed up pile. But that's okay. Aha, it was here. It was with these leaves, this sort of lighter colored ones. I liked that combination with this Cocoa Vanilla. So that's one stack of not so matchy-matchy, but kind of fun to match papers. These are from a Michael's paper pad called Woodland Fairies or Woodland something. I should look up the name of that and then put it in the description box so that you actually know what I am talking about. So again, these are just motifs that I thought would work. The fun little mushrooms with the leaves and the strawberries and that sort of theme. These are just little leaves in a yellow. And then the birds are kind of fun. Of course, they would work easily with the more neutral one of the sky. And with the green dots, these ones you could really incorporate into a lot of different patterns here. A green text pattern. Whoops, mushrooms, we're done with you. You can head off on your way. Again, same thing with a text background. Same with a text background. How many times have I said again? Are you counting? Just leave me a comment if you're counting. Excuse me. I should really know because apparently it's a lot. So a text background, I would say along the same lines of the grid, the wood grain, the ledger paper, neutral. Don't worry about it. If the color works, use it. So this would look good with the yellow stripe. This would look good with the hearts, and then you could use some of the cut aparts that have the pink and the green to marry the two. This would look good with the strawberries. This would look good with the more geometric print. You see where I'm going with that. These are papers from Altenew, I believe. Yes, I don't have the collection name. These don't have a branding strip, so I will look that one up as well. So this one, I just like the blue, again, more green, and then this is a stripe with a little bit of everything. So if you wanted to take the green polka dots, you could use those together with maybe a little matting, something in black to kind of break things up or just distinguish between the layers. The green dots with this multicolored stripe. The blue with the multicolored stripe even. Well, maybe not. That's a lot of stripes. You'd want to go with probably a different shape or something else. Let's see. What else with the blue? That's an option depending on how much of each you use. We're making quick decisions here, obviously, just for the sake of, you know, how and why we would match these colors. But this is a older Kaisercraft collection that I chose based on the theme. This is Summer Splash Beach Huts, because I thought if I were looking for something that I wanted to fussy cut, if I wanted to cut out a little border or have a border of beach huts sitting along the bottom of a page, these would be quite adorable. You know, imagine it kind of like that. Some waves, beach huts. Some of the pink, or obviously the sky, the waves, the beach huts. And throw in some yellow. You know, there's a color palette for a page just right there. This is a Kaisercraft winter collection, actually, Mint Wishes, but it basically has the same color scheme as the Summer Splash. So there's no reason that the four of those couldn't work together. Or the four of those together. Or these. I don't know if you've noticed, but I am not worried about mixing colors. The worst thing that could happen is you start mixing them and then decide you don't like it. So then you pull things apart and you try something else. Or you get smarter than me and you try things before you stick it down. So this is where I mentioned some simple stories that sometimes the vintage nature of these wouldn't work. But depending on how much of the white or the off-white you see in these dotted ones, it's a possibility because the orange works. So with this stripe, you could probably get away with this because the orange works and there's not a lot of bright white that's super visible. The orange would work with this sky because this is a white for the purposes of the clouds. It's not a super bright white that you would have in, say, one of the journaling cards. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm trying to illustrate there. Maybe the orange is the one to add some of the lips on because that's super fun. And these oranges actually go together fairly well. A couple of more simple stories, just basic background colors, just in some green, some blue, and then a pink grid. So again, these are just plain, obviously. And if you have the simple story, simple basics, you know, those are not patterns, but you would just search for those colors in whatever you think would work. Felicity Jane has some great collections to go to if you're trying to mix manufacturers and shake things up a little bit because they do a lot of black and white. So the black and white will go with everything. And since we're talking about the white, this is quite a bright white too. So you won't, like, one won't look dingy next to the other because they're both fairly bright. The last ones that I have are Bow Bunny Double Dot. How's that for a little bit of old school stuff? Don't ask me how old this is. I'm not sure any of us want to know that. So this yellow would work. The yellow with the hearts would be really nice. This one with the stripe. Again, see? Are you counting? This stripe is the one I keep going to anytime I'm picking something that's not bright white because it has a little bit of a creamier base in there, and this, it just tends to work better. So that's the one I've been going to for anything like that. The yellow is an option, that could work. Let's see if we notice a difference with the green, since that has the dots. Really depends on what you pair it with. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Just depends on what else you would use. It works well with this one just because of the leaf color, pardon me. So those work well together. This would be fun. The 4 of those would be fun together. And then let's go back to our yellow. What else could we add to this guy? We could add the blue, maybe a little green. I've used a fair amount of this collection, so I don't have all of the original patterns that came in the Strawberry Shake collection, but I still do have a fair amount of them. So now that we've made a thorough mess of things, and I have a whole pile of paper out of my stash, hopefully that was helpful and gave you some ideas on how to mix collections, how to put things together. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I like doing. I am that sort of person. As soon as I buy some new supplies, I take them all out of the packaging, put them all away. Even if I buy a kit, as soon as I get the kit, I break it all down and put it away. I store the paper with the paper, the die cuts with my die cuts, stickers with my stickers. I don't store anything sort of in the kit it came in, because this is the way my brain works. If I'm going to look through my paper, I'm going to look for yellow. I'm going to look for green. I'm going to look for red. And I'm not necessarily going to just look for Echo Park, or just look for Pink Fresh Studio, or just look for Studio Tekturek. Studio Tekturek I store separately because I need to know where that is. You know, that's important. That gets its own special storage spot. Yeah. So I'd love to hear if you have questions. I'd love to hear if this was helpful. I'd actually love to hear if this was not helpful. If this didn't explain the way that I like to mix collections and mix patterns and mix different manufacturers, then please let me know. What did I leave out? What could I explain better? What would you like to know? Please leave those questions in the comments, and then I can try and answer them for you. Because I think this is something, or I hear from, you know, even just from the friends I scrap with all the time, that this is something people struggle with. So, and there are lots of things I struggle with. This happens to not be one of them. Just don't ask me about scrapbooking with circles. That I can't help you with. This I might be able to help you with. So scrappy friends, have a fabulous rest of your day, and go make something. Bye.